The goal is to be rich, not just to look rich, and you might not realize it, but most of the advice you hear today, especially when it comes to money and business, they've been in the Bible forever. They've been there forever. So today I bring you 3 money habits that I've stolen directly from the Bible, and if you follow them, they will make you rich. Number 1 is to look poor. And as weird as that might sound, let me read you something first. Proverbs 13:7 says, "Some who are poor pretend to be rich, others who are rich pretend to be poor." Because the truth is, no matter how they make you look, buying designer clothing, buying the fancy car, making poor financial decisions will never actually make you rich. You might look rich, but the only people you're fooling are other poor people. The goal is to be rich, not just to look rich. And I will always remember this. It didn't happen very often, but I used to do live streams a lot, and I don't do them anymore. I might get back into it, but I don't do them anymore. It used to be great. I would have everybody come in and ask questions, and they would ask real genuine questions looking for help. But then you would get the one-off person who would say, "Show me your car first, and then I'll take your advice." First of all, you don't need to take my advice. Second of all, me making poor financial decisions, even though it might fool other poor people, is not going to make my advice better. It's definitely not going to help you. And as crazy as it is, fake it till you make it. It only fools other poor people. You want to be rich. You don't want to just look rich. You want to be rich. And I did some research on this. It's not just my opinion. I did some research on this. It's a cultural issue, and it's not just in America. It's around the globe, maybe in America more than most, but it's a cultural issue. We treat spending money as if it's a hobby, and it's a really bad hobby. And I did some research. This comes from thefool.com, which might sound ironic, but it's the Motley Fool. It's a financial website. They asked the same question. They asked, when do Americans overspend the most? And the simple answer is when they're bored. And it goes on to say, shopping habits vary by generation, but boredom is the most common time that Americans open up their wallets for impulse buys. That's particularly true for Gen X, 30% of whom said they most frequently engage in wasteful spending when they're bored. And here's the problem. Here's what's happening. We don't fill our time with productivity. We have been taught, and it's just the only thing this world supports right now is distraction. We need dopamine nonstop. So we don't fill our time with productivity because that's delayed gratification. We fill our time with instant gratification. So we always just need to be entertained. And when we don't have something new, when the same show that we're watching or whatever you're doing, when it's not hitting enough dopamine anymore, we open up our phones, and then there's new shopping apps. There's new ways to buy things faster and get them to you quicker, even though you don't need it. If I can have it tomorrow, it's like, okay, great. It's a new source of dopamine. We have stopped filling our time with productivity and started filling it with things like this. It's impulsive. It does give you, it's dopamine filled. It hits you with a shot of dopamine, and that's why we keep doing it. We do it when we're bored. That's how bad it is. And before I go to habit number 2, I want to clarify something. So I know there's Dave Ramsey who he goes on a little bit extreme and says just live off of rice and beans. If you got any kind of debt, just live off of rice and beans. You can't buy anything else, just rice and beans. But I agree with him to an extent, not completely. You don't need to live off of rice and beans for the rest of your life. What you need is to live below your means. And for most people, that might truly be rice and beans. But for a lot of people, it's not. You're just not tracking your spending. You're not looking at what you're spending. People believe, this is the problem. People believe they can spend more than they can afford more than they actually can. They think when their income goes up, they can afford a little bit more. If you keep raising your expenses every time your income goes up, you'll never escape paycheck to paycheck. And I see that all the time. I've worked with people making $100,000 a month, and you wouldn't believe it, but they're also living paycheck to paycheck. It's because nobody taught them how to use their money. But here's why I'm bringing this up. Because live below your means looks different for everybody. Solomon lived a very lavish lifestyle. It even tells us when the Queen of Sheba, it's in 1 Kings, the Queen of Sheba, when she went to visit him, she was first impressed by the clothes he was wearing, by the food that they were eating, by the utensils that they were eating with. She was impressed by how lavish they were all living. It wasn't just him, it's by how they were all living, but he could afford it. That, as lavish as it was still below his means. Here's how wealthy the entire kingdom was. They had so much wealth. It says in 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 27, the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stone. So yes, I mean, people like to point out Solomon as like, especially the online gurus, they're like, well, see, look at Solomon was rich, so you must be rich. He was lavish, you must be lavish. He was lavish, but it was still way below their means. Silver, a very precious metal, was as common to them as stone. That's why they could afford it. It was still below their means. And I mean, whether you agree with that or not, I mean, you don't need to be that lavish. I don't. If I was ever that rich, I still wouldn't be that lavish. It's because I don't need it. But it depends person to person. That's what I mean. Living below your means looks different for everybody. So you need to understand your personal situation. You got to stop taking general advice and taking it as a personal recommendation. It's not. You got to look at your situation and you got to look at what you're spending. Until you do that, nothing will ever change. And maybe that's not your problem. Maybe it's not. But let me tell you one more story, or a little bit more of a current example. And I heard this from somebody else. It was this guy, one of my mentors. He was learning from his leader, his mentor, and who was a billionaire. And he asked him. They were going on a trip somewhere together, and they were taking a private jet, which is not cheap. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially to where they were going. And they bought the private jet, but the billionaire, the guy who paid for it, he wouldn't pay for the food. And he was willing to pay for the jet, but he wasn't willing to pay for the food. He brought his own food. He went to Chick-fil-A and brought his own food. And the guy asked him, he's like, man, okay, not to be picky, but you're willing to pay $100,000 for the jet, but you're not willing to pay $25 for their food. He's like, why? What's the difference? And his response is, look, I will pay for the jet $100,000 because that is what it's worth. The $25 food that they were going to give me, that bagel is not worth $25. I pay for things what they're worth. And this is just economic discipline. Just because you can afford things doesn't mean you should buy it. You need discipline. To those who can be faithful with the little amount, more will be trusted. You need to handle the small things first. And I'm hitting this point kind of hard, but to look poor, it's not just to be modest. It's a smart financial decision. You don't need to live in rags. I mean, again, the shirt is like $8 from Old Navy. I got a ton of them. They look nice. I can wear them to church. I can wear wherever. But that's the point. You need to be economically disciplined. And that is the first point. The second habit, which you might appreciate a little bit more. Maybe it might be a little bit more interesting than the first one, which is to look poor. Habit number two is to give more. And that might seem opposite. If you want to become rich, people automatically assume they should be taking more. It's not about taking more, it's about giving more. And this is both biblically true. It's both biblically true and scientifically true. Psychologically, it is true as well. And I'll give you both examples. So in Proverbs 11:24, it says very clearly, give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. And this is a simple law of the universe. People who give more, they get more. It's not about taking more, it's about giving more. You take care of other people and they will take care of you. And here's why it works spiritually. Here's why it's so important in the Bible, why it's talked about so much. Because not only is it a nice thing to do, it is. Well, no matter how much you give, whatever you're generous with, it's a nice thing. But it's a form of faith, and it's a form of faith in two different ways. When you give, you're saying, I know God will take care of me. You take this, I know God will take care of me. The other way that you're showing your faith is that you are saying the same thing. You take this because I believe there will always be more. And if you need anything, you need God and you need an abundant mindset. We don't serve a God of lack, we serve a God of abundance. And that is the truest definition of abundance, of an abundant mindset. I believe there will always be more. Here, you take it. Let me take care of you because there will always be more. I'll find a different way to take care of myself, right? And, some people call this the law of detachment. When you stop focusing so hard on taking more money, automatically money starts flowing to you. Some call that the law of detachment, but I just call it, this is God's design. This is how he designed it to be. In fact, the only place we are allowed and actually encouraged to test God is with our finances. Let me read you that one. This is in Malachi 3:10, and it's something important that you should understand. It says, "Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, so there will be enough food in my temple. If you do, says the Lord of heaven's armies, I will open up the windows of heaven for you. I will pour out a blessing so great you won't have enough room to take it in. Try it. Put me to the test." So what does that mean? Does that mean you must tithe? No, it does not. But here's what it means. God loves a cheerful giver. And if he's telling us we can test him, that is the only place we're allowed to test him, I think you might want to think about it. I mean, you might want to do it. This is not about being giving just to give. It's a good thing for the other person. It's also a good thing for you. It's how your brain is hardwired. People who are generous, they make more money. There have been many studies about this done, and I'm not just going to quote one of them. You can look them up. I know Harvard has done a lot of them. But people who are generous, on average, they make more money, and there's a lot of different reasons why. But let's just think about it. Imagine this. So put yourself in this scenario. Imagine this. Let's say you have to pick. You have the choice of becoming friends with one of two people. You got to become this person's friend, and you got to support them. Who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick the person who is generous and always giving to you, or the one who's stingy and still owes you $1, right? They owe you, but they won't help you at all, right? Which one would you pick? I mean, it's super obvious, right? But let me give you a more practical scenario. Let's say you're the boss. Imagine you were the boss and you have to promote somebody. Would you promote the person who's always there, and I mean they're working hard and they help other people even when they don't get paid for it? They're putting in the extra work. Or would you promote the person who does the bare minimum? They show up right on the clock. I mean, they still do their job, but they show up right on the clock. They don't ever help if it's not required. They just kind of sit there and watch everything else burn. Who would you promote? Right? I mean, the answer is obvious. When you phrase it like that, it's obvious. And it's very simple, but one of the most underrated benefits of being generous is that you build a stronger network. You take care of people, and so other people want to take care of you. You build a stronger network, so when people have something good to give, the first person that comes to their mind is you. That is why it works. And not only that, psychologically, your brain is healthier when you practice gratitude, when you practice generosity. Your brain is it's in a healthy spot. It's happier. You are a happier person when you are being generous, no matter how big or small it is, and whether it's money or whether it's with your time or with your knowledge. Being generous is always a good thing. And I'm going to add a caveat to all of this because there's something else we need to talk about. But your brain is just happier, which means you're just more productive. You are a more productive and effective person, which allows you to be more consistent and disciplined. Everything works better. That's why generous people on average make more money. However, let me add the caveat to all of this. Beyond a stronger network, beyond the psychological effects of being happy, generosity puts you into the mindset of abundance. But I think a fair question to ask now is, what if I have the mindset of abundance without the abundant resources, right? I think like I'm abundant, but I don't have the abundance. How much can I truly give until I start seeing the abundance? And that is a fair question. And this is also very simple. You are not called to give what you do not have. If you're giving knowledge that you don't have, that's not knowledge. That's just a lie. You're making up a story, right? If you're giving money that you don't have, I don't know where it's coming from, but you're not called to give what you do not have, what you cannot afford. And this is in the Bible. I'm not going to just give you my opinion. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 12 to 13, here's what it says. It says, whatever you give is acceptable if you give it eagerly. So that's what I mean when God loves a cheerful giver. That actual phrase is said in other verses, not in this one, but whatever you give is acceptable if you give it eagerly, and give according to what you have, not what you don't have. And it keeps going. Of course, I don't mean your giving should make life easy for others and hard for yourselves. I only mean there should be some equality. So help other people, but at a certain point, you're a good person, but you can't fill everybody else's cup if yours is always empty. It doesn't work like that. Just like they are a child of God, you are a child of God. You need to take care of yourself too. It's not always about everybody else. Yes, you do need to take care of yourself. God calls you to take care of yourself so that you can go and take care of other people. You should be doing both. But most people, especially the overly generous people, they forget about themselves. And I've run into situations like this. Part of stewardship is making sure you're not enabling other people's poor decisions as well. At a certain point, if you keep giving money to somebody and they just keep putting themselves in worse positions, or they're buying themselves things that they shouldn't be buying, or they're just using the money incorrectly and nothing is helping, you are not helping them. You are only enabling their poor decisions now. And I've sat down with clients like this, which is really sad. They had, before this, whatever situation it was that came up, where a family member was taking advantage of their generosity, or even a friend or a business partner, whatever it was, they had hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings and investments until that started happening. And then they hit retirement age 65 and they couldn't retire. And they were now, this specific person I'm thinking of was close to 72, still couldn't retire because she was still making up for the effects of her generosity. At a certain point, your generosity becomes self-sacrifice, and you're not called to do that. You're called to help people, yes, but not by putting yourself in danger. That's not what you're called to do. You got to take care of yourself as well. Okay, so do both. And lastly, number 3 is it's a weird one, not because it's that it doesn't make sense, but it's actually so. It's common sense, but common sense isn't so common anymore, right? So it's only weird because it's uncommon, but you just need to work a little bit harder. Number 3, work hard. That is the third habit of the Bible that I've stolen directly from the Bible. You just need to work harder. And if you've made it to this point, if you're watching my videos at all, I'm assuming you are the kind of person you want to do something great. And I believe you in that cause because you were born to do something great. But if you want results that other people are not seeing, you want something that most people don't have, you need to work so hard that failure becomes unreasonable. There's this quote, and I don't know who says it. If you know, put it in the comments. But you know, I just forgot it as I was saying it. But that oh wow, okay. If I think about it, I'll let you guys know. But you need to work so hard that it becomes unreasonable for you to fail. And here's what the Bible says. Again, no opinion. Let me tell you what it says. Proverbs 14:23 says, "Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty." And that's a great verse, and I still can't believe I forgot whatever that quote was. I'm going to put the quote in the comments if I find it. But it's not just about working to work. Doing meaningless work is just for your own ego. And believe it or not, that's what they do. There is a nobility in working hard to take care of your family. But if you're working just to work, just to say that you work hard, you're not helping it. That's just your own ego. That's vanity. It's you work to be productive. As insane, as mind-blowing as that might be, you should be working to be productive, actually get things done, do the right work. I mean, you can do all the work in the world, especially in business. I'm assuming a lot of business owners or people who are looking to start business are watching this video. Business does not work unless you're doing the right work. Okay, you can do the wrong work. That does exist. You can be doing all the wrong work. And I see this all the time. People who want to start their business, they come on board with me and they claim to want all these great, amazing things. And I believe in those things. But then they want to focus on everything that doesn't produce a result. All of a sudden, they never did this before, but now all of a sudden they got to go to the gym every day instead of work, right? And I think you should be healthy. I work out every single day, but these people, I mean, they've never gone to the gym, but now they start a business and they're like, man, I got to go to the gym every day. Do the work that's going to produce a result. Until you're doing that, all this other stuff, it's a distraction. Do the work that produces a result. We were given a mandate, a biblical mandate, to be fruitful and multiply, to govern the earth, to take care of it, to take care of other people, to produce something outside of ourselves. Be fruitful and multiply is not just about having babies. That's part of it. But it's about producing something outside of yourself. Take care of other people. Produce something great. That's what it's saying. Be productive. Be a valuable citizen of the world. And it's not just about being, I mean, it's not just about working. It's not just about being productive. Because again, if there's no purpose to that, then it's all vanity. It's meaningless. And if you can't tell, I've been reading Ecclesiastes. It's all meaningless. But it's not just that. It's the most honoring thing you can do for yourself. It's the most honoring thing you can do for the people around you, and the same to God. Laziness in the Bible, it is a sin. It's a deadly sin, not just because you're doing nothing, but there's more than one place in the Bible that talks about this. But laziness is not just, oh, you're just doing nothing. You're just you're just sitting there doing nothing. It's destructive. If you don't take care of a house, it crumbles away. Correct? If you don't take care of your kids, you get arrested for neglect. And people claim, well, I didn't do anything. That's the problem. You didn't do anything. It is destructive. You have been given a responsibility, given authority, and with that authority, you're supposed to be productive and take care of whatever it is God has called you to take care of, to be a good steward, to be a good and faithful steward. That's what you're called to do. And if you're not willing to work for it, God's not going to bless you with it. This quote I do remember. Before I forget it, God's not going to bless what you're unwilling. God's not going to bless what you're too lazy to build. If you want something great, you need to be willing to work for it. Some of you are just not working enough. First, identify what you should be doing, the work that's actually going to produce a result. In my business, that's posting videos, that's posting content, that's making phone calls and sending messages. That is what gets direct results. Doing all these other things, whatever it is, going to network events, that works. Great, cool. Those are what produce results. And I have some people, I'm not going to name specific things because then they're going to know I'm talking about them. If you've gotten this far, you probably already know, but do the work that produces the result. I can't keep saying it better than that. I mean, there's nothing else to call it. But this is the last thing I'll say. If it takes you 100 phone calls to make one sale or to get whatever result, to get one lead, if you make 200 phone calls, now you've just doubled your income, right? Just do a little bit more. Do the work that produces a result, identify those things, and then just do a little bit more of it. Because I guarantee if you look at your schedule throughout the day, you could have done way more. You wasted so much time. You didn't do anything during certain periods of the day. I know somebody in our business who built his business. I believe making close to 7 figures now per year. He built his business starting by making phone calls 15 minutes a day because he was working 80 hours a week at his current job where he was already making a ton of money. But he was consistent. He did the work that produced the result, and he did it every day. That's the key. So he didn't put in a ton of time for his business, but it was consistent, and he did the right work. Do a little bit more of it now. All right? And oh man, if I think of that quote, I'll put it in the comments. If some of you somehow read my mind, go ahead and put it in the comments as well. If not, I will just see you in the next video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you in the next video though. All right, bye.